Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Hello and welcome to the Smells Like Infinite Sadness podcast. I'm your host, Michael Taylor. For those of you who don't know, I run the website, smellslikeinfinitesadness.com. It's a blog covering the best alternative rock from the 80s and 90s up to present day. I'm a proud middle-aged Gen Xer who is still obsessed with the music of his youth and loves to talk about it. And today I'm thrilled to be joined by Daniel Ash, the legendary vocalist and guitarist you know from Bauhaus, Tones on Tail, and Love and Rockets. He's back with a brand new project called Ashes and Diamonds alongside Paul Spencer-Dimon of Sade and Bruce Smith of Public Image Limited. Together, they've created a powerful debut album called Ashes and Diamonds Are Forever, which comes out October 31st on Cleopatra Records. We're talking about the making of the album today, the unique chemistry between these three iconic musicians, Daniel's unmistakable guitar sound, and yes, even a little bit about Love and Rockets. And stay tuned to the end of the episode because I'll be playing their killer first single, A Rocka. So, first, I really enjoyed the new Ashes and Diamonds album. I've been listening to it all week to get prepared for this interview, and I really like it. And one of the first things that struck me is your vocals seem a little bit kind of different from your past work. It may be a little more kind of subdued or darker, just has an interesting quality to it. Did you try any different techniques with your voice this time around, or is this just...
It's just me being 8 years older. I wouldn't say, God, that's weird that you say subdued, because I would have thought the opposite.
Well, I guess it's not a good word. I would think more kind of... it almost reminds me like I don't know why film noir comes to mind, but it has that kind of like a narrator's take on it or something. There's just something very interesting about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I suppose you're thinking of the more semi-talking tracks. Yeah. So
yeah.
I can see that. No, nothing's really planned on that front. It's just whatever. I work completely spontaneously, always have done. Nothing sort of pre-planned at all. It's the opposite to that. I just work completely spontaneously. Whatever suits the track, whatever the mood is, I just go along with that. I don't really think about it. If you start thinking about all that stuff, it's going to sound artificial. So I just go with what feels right. Done that my whole life, as far as making music goes. It's just whatever connects.
And I was reading your press release, and I know that you've known Paul Spencer-Dimon for years, but Bruce Smith came into the picture later. When was the moment that you all kind of realized that you had something special and you wanted to explore it as a band?
The moment we met. What it was, I'd known Paul for years because I knew his wife at art school when I was like 18. She was in the fashion class. I was in the graphics class. So I knew her. And then I had a connection. I met up with Paul several years later after they were married. So we would see each other occasionally in Los Angeles. I didn't know him well, but that's where I initially met Paul. And Bruce I didn't know at all. I didn't even know what Bruce looked like. I know that he'd been the drummer from Pill since 1986. But it was Kim, actually, Paul's wife, who suggested Bruce to do the drums in this band. So I hadn't met him until we rented a little rehearsal studio in LA. Bruce literally, because he lives on the East Coast, New York area, so he literally got off the plane, came to the studio. We met and shook hands in the parking lot, the three of us. As I said, I'd known Paul. And then we went into the room, started setting our gear up, and at about 3/4 of an hour later, we were trying to, create a track. When I think we got something on the first day. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, it started to work straight away. So it was very odd working with a complete stranger, when you're that was very odd. I've never done that before. Usually in the past, it's always been friends first, and then as kids do, let's start a band, that whole thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just met him in the parking lot, and we started, got the gear set up and started making a racket. And we got on, and it goes 7 years later, we finally got the record finished.
And, reading also, I know you mentioned that COVID, lockdown had quite a delay on everything, but you also said that that your perfectionistic nature made it take a little bit longer than planned. How do you know when you're like, okay, this song is finished, or are you? How do you know when it's like, no, this song needs more work? Is there like a litmus test that you have where you're like, okay, this is it, we're done? Or
Yeah, well, we thought we had it finished because we'd been recording together and independently. When COVID hit, obviously independently. Plus, Bruce lives on the East Coast. Paul's often in England or LA, and I'm 100 miles north of LA. So we had recorded the whole thing. We were working on mixing it. We thought we had it finished. And at the 11th hour, we're like, this is not fully realized. It doesn't sound right. This and that and the other thing bugging me about it. We all had our various things that were not right. So we decided at the 11th hour, in effect, to go book a studio in Hollywood. And we recorded the whole thing all over again. And we gave ourselves 10 days to do it. That's the only time we could get slotted in to this studio. We worked with a guy, Robert Stevenson. And he was great, English guy. He's he was very effective in keeping us focused. And we basically re-recorded everything from scratch in 10 days. So we had all the songs down. We've been living with them on and off for 7 years. But as I said, it just didn't. It wasn't. The production wasn't good enough. The mixing wasn't good enough, and also I put down a lot of guitars on the session when we got in. It was pretty barren as far as guitar goes because I get bored with guitars anyway. So I was sort of off. I didn't want to put loads of guitars on this album because I'm interested in the song, not the guitar solo. I'm not one of those guys that practices guitar all the time. Quite the opposite. I never practice, actually. I don't. I got better things to do. I'm not one of those musicians. So we went in and we re-recorded everything in 10 days, and I did end up adding lots of different guitar stuff actually on most of the tracks, and it became fully realized because of that, and also the mixing this guy was great mixing the stuff. It was a good studio. We had 10 days, and on the 10th day at about 10 o'clock at night, we got it all in the can. So we didn't actually have a minute to spare, but it was, it just felt right this time round. So it was a very expensive mistake after 6.5, 7 years that, this is not sounding good enough. And then we did get it. And, we knew the songs, so re-recording them wasn't that much of an issue, but adding various, guitar bits and keyboards or whatever else. And, all, we all change stuff around to a degree. And now it is 100% realized that this is as far as we can go with it. So we're really excited to get it out there. We released a couple of singles because how it works these days. Every 2 weeks, we're putting out a single. Hope to build interest with the public so that by the time they hear the fourth single, they're going to go and order the album on vinyl or whatever else. But, there's a lot of traffic out there. So we're trying our best to actually cut through by doing things like this. So as I've said before, it's all up to you now.
Got a lot of responsibility on my shoulders here. Well, I will do my best.
Right, it's all on you. Make up. So out on the 31st of October, Halloween.
Perfect date for this to come out.
I think so, yeah.
And you kind of downplay your guitar playing, but to me, you have such a signature sound, and on this album is no exception. I mean, Hollywood's got your Ebo stuff, which is always so cool, and then Boy or Girl has kind of almost like a shoegaze sound to it. I mean, there's always such cool textures and tones. Do you still use the same setup that you've used for years, or did you change anything up this time around? Or
yeah, I use the Telecaster again, and it's got a built-in sustainer, so it's the same principle as an Ebo, but all 6 strings are activated at the same time. So I've used those in the Fernandez guitars for years. But I did discover part of the reason that I added all these a substantial amount of guitars at the 11th hour was I'd always use these solid state amps, which is, without valves. So they have a very cool sound. But this amp, in conjunction with the telly, I could get the top end from the sharpness of the telly, but I could also get the depth because I was using a valve amp. And I discovered in the rehearsal room, they had this amp in the corner, and I plugged it in, and it was a Fender hot rod amp, which is, a little combo with two 12-inch speakers, but it's a valve amp. So the sound I got out of it, I got all my top end that I always have, but I got this oomph underneath. So that was really inspiring to bring this one into the studio and turn it up to 11, as they say. It was new territory for me because it had the bottom end now, not just the shrill top end. So I've been using that amp now for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. So I never look back.
Well, definitely some really great sounds. One thing I was wondering too, you all come from such different musical worlds. You with Bauhaus, Love and Rock, it's a Tones on Tell, Paul with Sade, Bruce with Pill. What surprised you most about how those influences blended, and how did the band dynamic differ from like your other projects? Was there any difference as far as how you worked, or is it just kind of how you work with all your bands? Just very...
It's always the same. You get into a room together, and obviously I don't like to work without a lyric. I had to get the lyric. The lyric's got to be there. Otherwise, you're just jamming and it's going nowhere. You have to have the structure comes for me from where the lyric is, and that defines where it goes at the end of the day. So, but yeah, just in a room working on. I suppose the difference with this is I didn't actually have a riff a lot of the time to start the thing off. This was the three of us working together. Often when we were working separately, I'd get a loop, some loops from I'd get the bass line from Paul, and then Bruce would send some loops. So I'd have basically bass and drums, put the headphones on, and then I could get the lyric from that. I used the cut up method that Bowie used and William Burroughs used, where you cut up. I would use headlines from tacky magazines, because they have the most spectacular headlines. Then I'd have those, put them on the kitchen table and start cutting them up and getting different sentences, and that would create, hopefully, if I was lucky, by the end of the day, I'd get a song out of it. So yeah, basically I'd listen to bass and drums, backing track and such, and then add guitar and vocals on top of that. So when we were working independently, that's exactly what would happen. And that was most of the time the way in the creative process. But then when we went in on the 11th hour to re-record everything, then we were all in the room at the same time. And that really shows. It sounds like a band. It doesn't sound like we've been working independently.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it definitely has a live feel to it.
Yeah, people were saying, it sounds authentic. We were all in the same room, in effect, or at least the same building, and playing together when we put the songs all together on the last day.
And then you mentioned the cut up technique for the lyrics. Is that how you normally approach lyrics, or is this something new that you tried?
No, I've used that, right? I remember using it I don't know if you know Go by Tones on Tail, but that lyric came from Viz magazine in England, which is a comic. Yeah, it's it's hilarious. Viz, I think it's still going. Or I get them from the Sun newspaper, or I get from I use the National Enquirer over here, because that's always got the most fabulous, headlines. So all the People magazine, the gossip mags. So what I'd do is I'd literally go to the supermarket, do some shopping, and then at the end where you got the checkout there, you've always got all those tacky mags, and I'd buy all of them. I'd get like $50 worth of those trashy magazines for the headlines, and then take them home and start putting them together to get a song. And it's great because it gets you off the hook. You don't have to think about, okay, what do I feel about whatever. You don't know what you're feeling about anything. This way, it's completely open to your subconscious to work. So these headlines would dictate where it would go. And at first, I'd find a title like Teenage Robots from a magazine that would start it off. And then I'd just build from that. And by the end of the day, I'll have written a lyric that I didn't even know I was going to write about 4 hours before. The cut-ups would dictate where it went. So it's a lot of fun doing it that way. It's a lot easier than trying to come up with something with no starting point. For me, anyway. I hope that answers your question.
No, definitely does. And on A Rocka, your first single, I really love that one. It's kind of got a sinister vibe, but also some kind of glam elements to it. What
Yeah.
made you all decide for that to be the first single?
Just we wanted something extremely simple and something extremely direct. Just having our commercial heads on. And the funny thing about that track, we were thinking of Gary Glitter, the Glitter Band.
Yeah.
That's how that came about. Let's get down the opposite to prog rock, the opposite to clever music, if you know what I mean. We want to, and I always loved the sound that Slade used to get with the claps and the Glitter Band, the sound that they got, and T-Rex. That was an inspiration for that song. That's and as I said, we wanted to be really in your face for the first song. And the funny thing about that, there's 6 words, I think, in that song, if not like 4 words. So, it's like numbskull music. It doesn't get much more direct than that. So it's very deliberate something to knock you over the head, rather than we were going to put out Hollywood, that track as the first single, which is obviously commercial suicide. So we came to our senses on the last minute with that one and swapped everything around and went with Rocka.
And then your next single, Setting Yourself Up for Love, is something totally different. It's got kind of a psychedelic feel to it. Just really a really cool vibe. Is that one that just kind of so you mentioned that your songs, you need a lyric, but do any of your songs ever start as jams? Like with that one seems like it almost has kind of like a very free-flowing feel to it.
That one started off with a very cool bass line and keyboard line from Bruce and Paul. I got some, whenever they'd send me drum and bass stuff, bass line and drums, I'd either say, yeah, I like it, or no, it doesn't really grab me. That one was one I remember where it just grabbed me. It had a mood to it. That keyboard that comes in at the beginning and the way the bass is, that inspired me that was the starting point with it. It's pretty much always like that. With this album, it pretty much most of the time started with a bass riff and a drum loop, and then I'd add on from that. So yeah, there you go.
And one thing I always like about your music is there's such a cinematic quality to everything. It's got a very theatrical approach. Were there any films that may have inspired anything, or was this all strictly inspired by headlines and?
Yeah, it was headlines. There's one of the songs, Ice Queen, that was inspired for me anyway by Angelina Jolie's face. In Maleficent, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah.
That when I saw, I love the way she looked in that film, and that inspired that song specifically. And I think I was probably reading about in a magazine that film, and I would have got lyrics and headlines. They would have come about by probably reading about that film. But yeah, that one was very specific for pretty much from the get-go, because just the way she looked in that, it was very inspiring for me, because it's extremely romantic, but in a very cold way.
Mm-hmm.
Track, Ice Queen, hence the title.
And speaking of cinema, you had Ridley Scott's son, direct the video for I'm a Rocka. Did you collaborate with him as far as have a concept for the video, or just kind of let him kind of go wild and go with what he?
No, we talked on the phone. I just said, the three of us came to the conclusion, this song is about riding a motorcycle. That is it. And we didn't want to be in the video as us. That was just so old fashioned. And we didn't want to do that. So we had the idea of, a guy on his bike with a full face helmet, and then we take it from there. So it pretty much wrote itself as what, Jake directed it. Yeah. Because it was actually filmed out in Joshua Tree. He has a place out there the last 20 years. So that was really handy. So basically I got there, and then the day of shooting the next day started out at like 4 or 5 in the morning till about 10:30 at night, just shooting various scenes during the course of the day. But it was very deliberate to not know who was on the bike, that it was an anonymous individual on the bike, although, it was me. But everybody would know that anyway. But, no faces, just a guy on his motorcycle. Very simple, just like the song. But that's what the way that song sounds is what it's like to ride a bike. I think we got that right.
Yeah, I can see that now. It's got a very kind of motoric feel to it.
Very direct.
Are there any plans to tour for this album? Do you all have like any live dates?
Nothing set up, but it depends on if it catches fire or not. If the public out there want to see us and we have enough record sales, I guess, or streaming sales, etc., that will determine whether we take this thing on the road or not. It's as simple as that, really.
Well, I think from everything I've heard, I mean, I think it's a fantastic album. So
somebody from Spin the other day said she has hundreds of singles and albums all the time, and she said most of them I give them 20 seconds, and this one I've played it several times, and I think it's one of the best albums of the year. So I said, what did you just say? Because exactly what I wanted people to say. People are saying that this is a special record, and we think it is. It's not just one that that was good. Next, this one, I think, if this one doesn't do anything, then I'm not really going to carry on. If this doesn't fly, then I'm pretty much done.
Well, I mean, I think it's great, and I've listened to it all week. If it does catch on, have you all discussed more music or?
Oh yeah, if it catches on, we will be inspired definitely to do another album. Absolutely. I think a dream for us would be to get some placements in film and TV, because, as you said, and it is very cinematic, and also it's very eclectic as well. It goes all over the place. It's not just one record. So we think that it's custom made for some damn good films. A nice, big, juicy Hollywood blockbuster would be very much appreciated.
Well, I hope that pans out, because I agree.
So do we. Fingers crossed. That would be the ideal.
And I have to ask this because people will ask, so just forgive me for one question about Love and Rockets, but I did speak to David J. a few months ago about his solo album, and I told him that I was bummed out that you all had that tour with Jane's Addiction that obviously came to a close. But I had seen your earlier reunion show, and it was fantastic. One of the best shows I've seen. And he mentioned that you all might have plans for a tour in the near future. Is that true, or?
There was talk of it when that tour disintegrated, but I must say my heart and soul is in this project now, because I started it. We started it. Paul actually, contacted me 7 years, and it's so much work has been put into it that I've got pretty much tunnel vision these days. I want to see this through to the very end. I have much more interest and excitement about this because it's brand new. I've worked with the other formats since 1978, so a change is well overdue. So for me, when I get onto something like this, an album, I have total tunnel vision, and all my focus is on this and nothing else right now. So this is top of the list for me. Everything else is pushed away to the sides right now.
So even in addition to, do you have like any solo stuff planned, or like you say, you're all in with Ashes and Diamonds, and that's?
Oh, I'm all in. We all are on this. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is. You tend to find, I do anyway, working with other people in this sort of capacity where we all have equal say. It can be really, really, really challenging because, we very rarely agree on stuff initially. I'll give you an example. With Ashes and Diamonds, it took us 3 years to get the name of the band because we couldn't. So, it's hard work in that respect. But the payoff because, you know, the three of us got some real talent when we work together. Hopefully the payoff on this is going to be quite substantial, is the dream, and hopefully the reality. You know, this is not a side project. This is all in, you know, very much so.
Well, like I say, I really love listening to the album. I'll definitely be, promoting it, and I hope you'll have great success with it.
Got a question. Have you got a favorite song or two?
Favorite song? I do like Hollywood a lot. I do like that one. And even though it's the first single, I really like the I'm A Rocka. It's just got a really cool, just kind of primal feel to it. And like you said, the Ice Queen one as well. And so I really haven't, there's not one song where I was like, okay, skip this one. Like, it's all very engaging.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. There's no fill-up tracks, no cover version. No. There's no fill-up tracks. Again, having 7 years to absorb everything, you find out where the cream is, because there are obviously things that we would have had and we would have scrapped or changed substantially. So that, in retrospect, having these 7 years to really find out where the cream is and where the crap is, we've managed to filter out any. There's no fill-up tracks on this album. So again, hopefully that's going to put it in a certain category that isn't just like, oh yeah, there's 2 good tracks on that album. It's horrible if that happens. We're hoping it's really solid. So as far as the public's perception of it.
No, I definitely think it is. So,
you've had time that you've taken time out to hear it several times. That's very cool. I've heard that a few times in doing these interviews, that they say, yeah, this is really authentic. This is great songs, great production. So hopefully, all this hard work is going to pay off, and we might actually have a few, a hit out.
It would be fantastic, and I hope it does well, and I hope that you all eventually do a tour, because I would definitely be there for that. So,
I think that in the hands of the gods, as I've said about 16 times doing these interviews, but that's it. It's in the hands of the gods now, and a damn good promoter, which is you.
I take it seriously, so I will preach to.
Plug it as much as you can would be very much appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you, Daniel. It's been a real pleasure talking to you again, and best of luck to the album. Hope you guys do a tour, and hope there's new music in the future. So,
thank you so much. Doesn't get better than that.
Well, take care.
See you next time. Maybe see you out there within the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Well, that was my conversation with Daniel Ash of Ashes and Diamonds. Their debut album, Ashes and Diamonds Are Forever, drops on Halloween, October 31st on Cleopatra Records, so be sure to check it out and give it some love. It deserves it. A huge thanks to Daniel for joining me and to you for listening. To close out the episode, here's a track to introduce the world to Ashes and Diamonds, A Rocka, first single. I think you'll dig it. So check it out, and until next time, stay safe and stay sane.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.